she told me to come here Tuesday of the year. It's okay, if you don't have it, it's okay.
She mailed it to you. She sent you a note.
She did?
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm glad, it's just for when she goes back to bed, she got all her stuff, it's to come. Okay, I'll go, no problem.
Drives on a
That's okay, no, no, no.
truck on the private sidewalk. Get 12, 13. Yeah. And then they get some
What?
people run in.
Yeah.
Things about how to do the
I'll try not to. And give, what's her name?
How did this good second? I just don't understand. I'm mystified by it.
Well, you know what I don't think is since the community would have to take it control. Because that might be shown as sin even in the replacement. And it's true, Americans do. Americans hate it over. It's very polarized.
You just don't do things.
No, he's still the president.
No, that's a shame.
It is.
Shame it gets that far.
It's a shame that people are stupid. So tone deaf.
Yeah, is that Mr. Slattery, the older left-hand corner back in the end of the church? He's got them as a giver. That Mr. Slattery.
She sent her a real nice note.
I always had a theory that God heard prayers better at the end of the pews than they were before. I always believed
I
that.
think you're right.
I think he heard them better. It required you not to stay for the whole mass because he heard them better. One of those things you just don't quite keep your finger on. I should shut my phone.
Yeah, you just shut mine off.
Case, I got called last night. I get called 4 times.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, June 6th, 2017 regular council meeting for the City of Brook Park. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Scott.
Here.
Bergio.
Here.
Salvatore.
Here.
Troyer.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
McDonald.
Here.
Mancini.
Here.
Would everyone please stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Council, I'd like to entertain a motion that we go out of the regular order of business to handle what is on M2 of the agenda, the resolution for Polaris.
Support that motion. Support.
There's been a motion to go out of regular order of business to address item M2. It's been properly supported. Seeing no discussion, I'll ask clerk, please call the roll.
Bergio.
Yes.
Mancini.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Troyer.
Yes.
Salvatore.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Okay, we're out of the regular order of business to address the first reading of resolution number 17-2017.
Clerk's not ready.
The clerk will need a couple seconds to pull out the document.
Got it. Introduced by Councilwoman Powers and Councilman Troyer, Council members Mancini, Scott, Bergio, McDonald, Salvatore, and Council President Astorino. Honoring the Polaris Career Center's culinary team in winning the 2016 and 2017 National Pro Start Invitational Culinary Team Competition and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend?
Support.
There's been a motion to suspend. It's been properly supported. Is there any discussion on suspension? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Move to
Suspension.
adopt?
Support.
Suspension's been approved. There's been a move to adopt, properly supported.
Mr. Chairman,
Discussion on adoption, Mr. Salvatore.
if we could you have the clerk read the entirety of
Certainly.
the body of the resolution?
Go ahead, clerk.
Whereas the Polaris Career Center Chef Training Program is instructed by Chris Olszewski, and whereas the 5 students that were chosen for the 2016 National Pro Start Invitational Culinary Team, and 1 were Chris Ritz, Therese Napier, Emily Leopold, Dakota Stevens, and Amber Stevens. Whereas the 5 students that were chosen for the 2017 National Pro Start Invitational Culinary Team were Brian Corellis, Chris Hitz, Teresa Napier, Brandon Schifferly, and Cheyenne Yates. And whereas the 2017 Polaris Culinary Team won the State of Ohio Pro Start Invitational this year, the 8th time in a row that Polaris has won this event. Whereas the 2017 Polaris Culinary Team was victorious in Charleston, South Carolina, at the 2017 National Pro Start Invitational Culinary Team competition, and the 2nd consecutive year that Polaris Culinary Team won this event. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Brook Park, State of Ohio, the Mayor and Council wish to congratulate and honor chef training instructor Chris A. Olszewski, along with members of both the 2016 and 2017 National Pro Start Invitation Culinary Team.
Okay. Any other discussion on adoption? Seeing no other discussion, we'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on adoption.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 17-2017 has been adopted. I would ask the members to please come up to the podium, and the councilwoman will make a brief presentation to you. You can just stand right there. She'll be coming to that podium.
At this time, I would like to present to you this proclamation in recognition of your achievements, and I would also like to mention that for the last 20 years or so, I've been getting groups together to come to Polaris, the best restaurant in town. And so for each of you, Ryan, Chris, Therese, Brandon, Cheyenne, and Chef O, we will present this proclamation to you, and you can hang it on your wall along with all the others that you have up there. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to get a picture with you. Sure. I'll have to step back a little farther.
To squeeze in a little bit.
Let the squeeze together like you like each other a little bit there.
Would you like to be in there? get lost for words at times like this. Turn around. I just want you to see the faces of the students that put in over 700 hours additional time this school year alone in getting ready for our state and national events. Our two seniors, raise your hands, Chris and Therese, they were on the team last year. And, between the 2 years, they put in over 1,400 hours, additional time after school, 4 nights a week, along with their peers here that, allowed them to get those skills and achieve what they did. It's not an easy thing to do. Winning the state is hard enough, but getting the nationals and winning this event amongst 48 teams, including 2 Department of Defense teams from Guam and London, and another one from Germany if they show up. It's hard, it's difficult, it's impossible, and we're one of only 2 states to ever win it 2 years in a row. And $1.7 million these students have won in scholarships this year alone, including free rides to culinary school, which, that's about $100,000 value just for that scholarship alone. So it's a testament to career tech education. It's a testament to local community support on a state and national level for career tech education. And it's just another pathway for our students to achieve, getting beyond that belief that you have to go to a 4-year college to be successful. And career tech education is that pathway into another branch of success for students today. So we thank you.
Chairman,
I have to say
may I ask a
something.
question?
Congratulations, and we hope to see at least 3 of you here next year, and we already have that deal about bringing food, right? Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We want to congratulate you, but I was a little disappointed. I thought we'd have a chef's table here with a sampling of all the different things. Okay, well, why don't you all get together? I like what you're talking about in the career path for folks that are not going to go to college. And you're looking at the next, Michael Simon lived in Brook Park for a long, long time. He actually won the Iron Chef as a resident of our town. You're looking at entrepreneurs here because these chefs will go on to open your restaurants. And we pledge that you at least be your first restaurant you open in Brook Park so we can put a food court up at Brookgate and have all your different expertise up there and feed our people. But congratulations, we're most proud of your efforts.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, council? Accept the
Motion to go
motion.
back to the regular order of business.
Support.
There's a motion to go back to the regular order of business, properly supported. Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Okay, we're back to the regular order of business. We're under item C, which is approval of minutes of preceding meetings. Number 1 is the revised regular council meeting that was held on September 20th, 2016.
Motion to approve those minutes.
Support.
There's been a motion to approve, properly supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask clerk, please call the roll.
Mancini?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Abstain.
Okay, the meeting minutes for September 20th, 2016 have been adopted. Item number 2 is it's a revised regular council meeting that was held on October 18th, 2016.
Motion to approve those October 18th minutes.
Support.
There's been a motion to approve, properly supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on adoption.
Mancini?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Abstain.
The meeting minutes for October 18th, 2016 have been adopted. We moved to item number 3, which is the revised regular council meeting that was held on November 1st, 2016.
Motion to approve those November 1st minutes.
Been a motion to approve. Motion to adopt, excuse me.
Support.
Support. There's been support provided. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on adoption.
Mancini?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Abstain.
The meeting minutes for November 1st, 2016 have been adopted. We move to item number 4, which is a revised special caucus meeting that was held on November 12th, 2016.
Again, motion to approve the November 12th, 2016 meeting minutes.
Support.
Been a motion to approve. It's been supported. Discussion. Councilman Bergio?
Thank you, Mrs. Chairman. Just a few minor typos, misspelling. On page 34, first one was, it's on line 20. The street Langer was spelled Langor. It's Langer.
Okay.
And on page 76,
Be Wangler.
line 21 and 24, misspelled name. Peterlin is misspelled. It's missing an R, and that is on line 21 and line 24.
Okay.
And lastly, on page 77, line 1, Peterlin misspelled Peterland instead of Peterlin. And that's the only typos that I've seen on that one.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilwoman?
the first one that Mr. Bergio read, instead of, yes, Langer was spelled wrong, but also Langer was the wrong street. Mr. Peterlin lives on Wengler, Wengler. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Make a motion to amend on that, on the street, too, or should we do the other one first?
should do all of them.
We could do them all.
They're just typos, correct?
Typos, yeah.
So we're gonna have a motion to amend them?
Well, Councilwoman Powers pointed out there was a wrong address. I'm not aware of that.
That also, I have it written down.
Oh, okay.
We just do it in one, right?
Just to correct a misspelling words.
Is council happy with that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. They'll be corrected.
Thank you.
Mancini and Troyer for adoption.
Okay, the motion was to adopt, and we will make those typographical changes. So, seeing no other discussion, I'll call the roll on adoption of the November 12th, 2016 minutes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Abstain.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Okay, the meeting minutes for November 12th, 2016 have been adopted. We moved on to item number 5, which is a special caucus meeting that was held on March 4th, 2017.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Been a motion to approve, properly supported. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Bergio,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
McDonald,
Abstain.
Powers,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Okay, the meeting minutes for March 4th, 2017 have been approved. Item number 6 is a special council meeting that was held on March 28th, 2017.
Motion to approve the March 28th meeting minutes.
Support.
Been a motion to approve, properly supported. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Mancini,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Abstain.
The meeting minutes for March 28th, 2017 have been approved. We moved to item number 7, which is a regular council meeting that was held on April 4th, 2017.
Motion to approve those minutes.
Support.
Motion to approve, properly supported. Any discussion on approval? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mancini,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Abstain.
The meeting minutes for April 4th, 2017 have been approved. We moved to item number 8, which is a regular council meeting that was held on April 18th, 2017.
Motion to approve the April 18th meeting minutes, please.
Support.
It's been a motion to approve, properly supported. Is there a discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk please call the roll on adoption.
Mancini,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Abstain.
The meeting minutes for April 18th, 2017 have been approved. We moved to item number 9, which is a special caucus meeting that was held on April 20th, 2017.
Motion approved on April 20th meeting minutes, please.
Support.
Been a motion to approve. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion on approval? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mancini,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Abstain.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore.
Yes.
Meeting minutes for April 20th, 2017 have been approved. We moved to item number 10, which is a special caucus meeting that was held on April 22nd, 2017.
Motion to approve those minutes.
Support.
Been a motion to approve. It's been properly supported. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mancini,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Abstain.
The meeting minutes for April 22nd, 2017 have been approved. We moved to item number 11, which is a special council meeting that was held on April 27th, 2017, the first one. Number 1.
Motion to approve as presented.
I'll support.
Been a motion to approve. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Bergio,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
McDonald,
Abstain.
Powers,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
The special council meeting held on April 27, 2017 has been approved. We moved to item number 12, which is a special council meeting that was held on April 27, 2017, the second one, number 2.
Motion to support the April 27th meeting minutes, number 2.
Support.
It's been a motion to approve the minutes, properly supported. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mancini,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Abstain.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore.
Yes.
The special council meeting that was held on April 27, 2017, number 2, have been approved. We moved to item number 13, which is a special council meeting that was held on May 9th, 2017.
Motion to approve as presented.
Support.
He
Been a-
beat you out.
There's been a motion to approve, properly supported. Is there discussion on approval? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
The meeting minutes for the special council meeting that was held on May 9th, 2017 have been approved. That concludes the items that are under letter C. We move to page 2 of the agenda, item D, reports of standing committees. We'll go first to Aviation and Environmental, Councilwoman Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing on the agenda tonight, but I would just like to remind everybody that it's butterfly and bee season and taking care of your yard season, so be very mindful of what you're putting out there so that we don't kill all the beneficial insects and ourselves. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We'll move to the Finance Committee, Councilwoman McDonald.
Thank you, Council President. Finance Committee has one piece of legislation on the agenda today.
Thank you. We'll move to the Legislative Committee, Councilman Troyer.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Legislative Committee has one item on tonight's agenda, and I'd like to mention again, there's quite a few things in the committee, in the Legislative Committee, and if anybody would like their items pulled out, please contact Michelle or send me, and have her send me an email, or go ahead and send me an email yourself, and I will pull them out for you, out of committee for you. So that's the end of my report on that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Parks and Recreation Committee, Councilman Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a Memorial Day parade on Monday, the 29th. I hope you were out there to see it. I think it was a huge success. We had a lot of people in collaboration to do it, and I thought the participation at the memorial this year, and I think maybe the mayor might touch on it a little later, how it was pretty outstanding. It was very good supported. It was a great turnout, you know, to honor our veterans, our boys and girls fighting now. Today's D-Day. So let's keep, you know, our soldiers in our prayers and our veterans in our prayers also, absolutely. Humanic Funeral Home and the American Legion were a big participant in it. Many others were also, too many to mention, but if you were there, you got to see a lot of family, friends, and the ones that contributed also. Our winners of the essay contest was Gianna Colonna and Matthew Moss. They wrote some wonderful little essays and the true meaning of Memorial Day. They both did a really good job. They were a little nervous, I think, getting up there, but they stood strong. We were all very impressed, and they should be very proud. The youth, as you've seen outside tonight, the youth baseball, softball, and t-ball has all officially started. I want to say them ball fields look really well. I'm missing 2 of my girls' games tonight. Going to be here, want to be here, absolutely. But you know, as I drove through that complex today, they look really good. Jeff Podovic, the guy that does the ball fields, put a little extra energy in on them things sometimes. And Danny's here tonight; he could testify. Jeff, he takes it very seriously when he works on them ball fields. It's like a lot of our workers. The water park's scheduled to open this week. Obviously, it's been a little below 70 degrees, so that's probably why you didn't see the last 2 days anyone out there. But I think it's supposed to warm up near the end of the week. The new program's going to be the senior swim. It's going to be from 11 to 12. We have somebody here tonight. I don't want to be embarrassed, but Roberta, I think she was kind of the co-conspirator to get that going. So yeah, she's hiding. So, but that was a good idea, and we're doing it. And we hope that program goes real well too. The public swims from 12 to 7 daily. The water park's open Monday through Sunday. The Little Princess practices started today. We're still taking applications for Miss Junior Brook Park and Miss Brook Park. I believe there's like 3 and 4 right now. So if you know any family, any of the girls in the neighborhood, whoever, get them up there, because it's not only the competition, but it's just a great thing to do at that age. It's a nice event, and it's a good experience too, and it's also a lot of fun. The youth football and cheerleading signups are currently underway. Summer hours for the rec center are Saturdays from 9 to 1 until Saturday, September 9th. So remember that if you're going to go up there at 2:30 on a Saturday, them doors are going to be locked. So if you want to get up and work out, because we're starting to get more participation up there. And on that, I just want to say with the culinary kids, that was a great achievement. I think they did very well. They did. They won a big contest. It isn't easy to do. You know, I mean, academics are the utmost important, but, you know, sports are nice too, but sometimes there's other things, and I think that's getting yourself a scholarship for cooking some food and making some pastries. And very, very big, a lot bigger than a lot of people think. So if we get the rec center done and put a restaurant, we'll hire the 5 of them. Huh, Rick? Get them over there and be our chefs, right? Okay. On Sunday, June 4th, we had a special watch party. It was hosted by the Cleveland Cavaliers. What it was is we acknowledged our volunteer coaches, sponsors, and some of our youth participants and family members. We're very hopeful on this to maybe to be able to offer some other spectacular programs like this, maybe like a couple Indian watch games, things of sort, or Browns watch camp. It's just, it's a program, the Cavaliers sponsored it, maybe we could take it and run with it. That's what we're hoping to do. And then through this time, we're hoping to get everybody involved, okay? But we, you know, honored the volunteers. A lot of them put a lot of time in. They're at that rec center. People say I'm there every day, but there's a lot of them that are there an awful lot too. And they're out on these ball fields right now. So it was a great event. We hope to have many more of them. But that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you for listening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. We will move to the Planning Committee. Councilman Troyer.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I'd like just to mention that I concur with the councilman. We need food and we need to sleep. So food and mattress is the way to go. And I got to tell you, if you want to make me happy, feed me. You want anything from me, feed me, as you can see. Anyways, the Planning Committee had a meeting just last night. We approved 2 items. One was a beehive for East Vancy. Again, working with trying to bring our bees back and talking to a lot of people having issues with their gardens just not being as productive because there's just not enough the pollen being spread around. So that's one of the things we approved. This is the second one this year for a beehive. Hopefully that's going to make everything work better in people's gardens. And also Enterprise over off Sheldon is building a building for Dent Wizard to do the minor repairs right on their property there. So we approved, Planning Commission approved both those items unanimously. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to the Safety Committee. Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight's agenda is the agreement with the firefighters, and I would encourage council, I do plan on making a motion to suspend, and I would hope that everyone would join in and we can get this contract passed this evening. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll move to the Service Committee. Councilman Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Service Committee has 2 items on today's agenda.
Thank you,
That's all I have,
Councilman.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. We'll move to Board of Zoning Appeals. Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board of Zoning, again, met yesterday, also before Planning Commission. We had 4 items on the agenda. The first one was to request a 6-foot side lot line variance to install a pool at 15647 Paulding Boulevard, and that was okayed. The second one was to request a variance to construct a 1,200 square foot accessory structure using non-masonry construction at 20400 Sheldon Road, Enterprise Holding. That's the one Councilman Troyer was talking about. We approved that variance. The third one was a request of variance to develop in the northeast parking area within the front setback at 5081 West 140th Street, Snowville Service Associates LLC. That too was okayed. That was to bring in some parking areas. And the fourth one was request the following variances at 18256 Sheldon Road. The first request was to allow an additional accessory structure. And then the second request was to an 88 square foot variance to install a 288 square foot shed. Both them items were tabled, and recommended that he meet with the building department, and hopefully we bring that back up from being tabled. And that's all we got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. That concludes the items under letter D. We'll move to letter E, which is reports of special committees. We'll go to Southwest General Health Center trustee, Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a brief report here this evening. At the last board meeting, I presented the recommendations for the system officer appointments for the new year, and it passed unanimously. Our chairman will remain Dr. Pendrangi. The vice chairman will now be David Muhak. He'll be replacing one of our very own, Dave Lambros, who stepped down, and he did an excellent job as the law director here, and his reputation continued on to the hospital board, and he did an excellent job for the hospital board. We're going to miss Dave, but David Muhak will also do an excellent job as well. Our president is going to remain William Young Jr., who's doing a fabulous job for us, and the secretary out of Middleburg Heights will be David Bortolato, and the treasurer will be Eileen Harold. Well-respected, well-known throughout all of the communities. Eileen's been around a long time. My recommendations from my committee also, that slate was passed unanimously. Remaining on the system, we appoint some members from our board to the Health Center Board. They'll be serving a 4-year term. And it's Mel Hauser, Terry Kravek, Christine Lobus, Ricky Shine, Jack Thomason, and Edward White. And then the 2 members that we appointed emeritus is James Davis and Leroy McCary. Other than that, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman. We'll move to the Berea Board of Education Committee, Councilman Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out here today and celebrating my birthday together with me and council. Thank you. I attended the school board meeting yesterday, and it was on my anniversary also. There were 2 absent at the board meeting. One had to leave early, but there was still a quorum at yesterday's meeting. The treasurer reviewed the strategic plan and goals and also shared the process for establishing department and building budgets. In his report, he mentioned that the lion's share of the budget was 71% of the general fund for salary and benefits. A resident and athletic booster parent asked about the discussion of pay-to-play possible increases in athletic fees. The treasurer explained that the revenue is expected to show a deficit of more than $11,000. A shortfall would mean money would be needed to be taken from the general fund. A few board members responded and opposed that idea, but an increase will be reviewed at some time in next school year. Board president said an increase would be a hardship for many families. She mentioned the poverty rate was about 30% in the district. but others were not in favor of taking general fund money to cover any projected deficit in the athletic program. Gate receipts were the main funding source, with football games followed by basketball primarily. And the revenues fluctuate, as the treasurer mentioned, greatly from year to year, depending on the weather in the fall and a team's performance for attendance at the games. The board decided to wait until sometime during the next school year to evaluate whether to increase student participation or pay to play. It is currently $80 per student at the high school level. The treasurer noted that we're seeing a drop in enrollment every year, which directly affects student athletic participation. The district is moving along with the facilities planning, and construction is to begin in February or March of 2018. They have been meeting with community planning groups regularly. A change order for the AstroTurf field at Rames softball field has changed from the original contract price of $1,384,942 to $1,187,627, reflecting a previous change order decrease May 1st and an additional $69,000 for materials and labor costs. Dinah Jones will replace Sandra Hammer as administrative assistant to the superintendent beginning August 1st. Michael Pellegrino was appointed to academic affairs. Student fees were approved by the board for the 2017-2018 year also. And I just wanted to thank the sponsors of that culinary recognition for doing that. They're really deserving of the kids, and I think it was nice that we honored them tonight. When I was on the school board, the Polaris board, that was a common thing. It's kind of a traditional thing that they win constantly. It's always been a good program, so we're proud of them, and thank you again for sponsoring that. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That concludes the items under letter E. We have nothing under letter F or G, so we will go to letter H, which is reports and communications from the mayor. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to begin by responding. Everyone knows we had a rash of ducks that converged upon Malley's Candies on Brook Park Road. And I want to say that the animal control officer and our fire department responded accordingly and maintained order in the city. And it's also been a trying week for them. I had the opportunity, I was out campaigning to find a baby deer at the side of a home, and we had to shush the big deer out of there, and the fire department responded as well. But I think the director in his report should address, we had another happy occasion with delivering a baby. It was also a couple of traumatic days for our firefighters, and I hope the director will talk about that. Also, commenting on the Cavaliers watch party, I know some people were upset because they didn't get invited. It was a co-production by the city and the Cavaliers. They limited our number, and trying to determine what should we do to best take advantage of the situation. And someone came up with the idea of rewarding our volunteers. And you may know that we give them proclamations and we pat them on the back, and sometimes we always give them a pain in the butt, the demand of coaching and volunteering when they have to take time away from their family. So we thought it was an adequate situation where we could award folks for volunteering and giving their time. So if we've offended anybody, we apologize, but we don't apologize for recognizing those volunteers. Also, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask council to consider tabling ordinance 179, 2017 on the endless pools, to place that back in committee. The contractors have been responding. They're asking for additional time because of the complexities of the situation. I know that some councilmen have scheduled or are in the process of scheduling visits to the facility. And again, this doesn't affect the rest of the improvements over there, so we can afford some time to review it and make the right decision. So I'd ask council's consideration in that particular matter. On Memorial Day, I couldn't have been prouder of this city. The challenge they responded to, I think, in the type of fashion that our Memorial Days used to be there in the old time, in the old days. As a matter of fact, one Marine reminded, it didn't remind me, but the Post 610, that they forgot about the Marines that were there. They talked about everybody else, so to see that spirit It was very good, and the congregation of the families there, young and old alike, that waded through the little areas of water that we had around the monument. I think the service department, the director, did a great job in getting it ready, and the flags that we had out there. I was very proud of our city, and I hope we keep it up. Special thanks to Mike Von Doom, Billy Fisher on our own, old-timer, Carl Bergio, for providing all the singing there for that occasion. It was well received, and we want to thank them for taking their time out. I passed out to council this evening these pictures along with an article about Lakewood City Council. And as you know, we're in the process of moving our City Hall operations over to the Recreation Center. And the council chambers, and I hope the council would schedule to go over and look at it. They actually did it under a state purchasing contract. We're getting proposals. There's a company in Brook Park that does this. This one was done by a company in Berea, and literally this has everything that we need. If you look at it, if you can pull it out right now, at the dais, this would be the first one would be the council president's seat, and you see you have a monitor in front of you, so that somebody would be making a presentation. All the council people, the screens wouldn't have to be facing council. They would have a monitor right in front of them, and they could look at the presentation. If you go to page 2, this is a panel. The clerk literally controls everything that happens in the council meeting, from the cameras to the images to the displays, all from this little tablet. I don't know if Michelle reads People magazine, but the technology is pretty incredible, and I think you should go see it. Again, the next picture shows a monitor that, again, would be viewed by council, and you have a larger view of the room. As you can see on the next page, there are 2 large screens that would be facing the folks in each side of the room, so that they'd be able to see the presentation that's being made, whether it be planning and zoning or any interested party that's making a presentation before city council or planning and zoning. The next one will show you the monitor on the other end of the podium there, and also the director's chairs where they sit right now. They're permanent. When we move over to the recreation department, our plan is to, again, still have that be a multi-purpose room. And again, these can be rolled away and they don't impede anything. And after looking at this, I believe, I'm going to ask Brewer Garrett, I believe we can reuse the dais that we have presently. If you look at the next panel here, what I want you to pay attention to is this little red light on the bottom in front of the council president's thing. That's a timer that is there. They set a time limit for people's response. And the clerk sets the timer, and actually there's a little buzzer that goes off. It's 5 minutes, and if you want to give them a couple more minutes, it's good. So the person making the presentation would see that. In the next panel, you'll see a keyboard. And for instance, now where our podium is at, this would be in permanent emplacement where who's ever making the presentation would plug in their programming, and they'd be able to use the keyboard and make their presentations to City Council. And you can see the second monitor there is one on each side of and Lakewood also uses this as an auditorium. The next one is the same thing. You can see how the microphones are there for the directors. They can be unplugged, and their use of the carpet tiles in there is similar to what we're proposing to do. The next one is, you'll see the red light again. This is the view from the council president's seat. So he can look up there and the clerk can look up there and see how much time is left. And also you see the cameras and the audiovisual display projectors for the council meetings again. The next page shows you the control panel, and literally where we have right behind the stage right now at the rec center, it's no bigger than that room, so literally we could replace what we have in there now with the needed cabinetry to facilitate. You can see there's the clerk, and you get a better size of the room. It's almost identical to what we have behind okay? And the next page is really interesting. Council will have a tablet if we choose a system similar to this. There'll be no more paper. You will bring this tablet in. It will have your total agenda on there. And on the next page, you can see at the bottom, you can email this, you can bookmark it, you can underline and highlight all on this tablet as you're sitting at the meeting, so the paperwork literally would be unnecessary. So I would ask that council go over and view it. I think it's a perfect application for what our needs are. I believe I budgeted 100,000. I don't think we have to do 150,000 as they did. But I think it meets all of our needs, and at an appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to schedule a council to walk through the community room over there so they can envision how it would be set up. Council in Lakewood has a separate committee room off the council floor down the hallway. We're envisioning that the caucus for the council will be right behind the dais on the stage over at the rec, and we'd like to have a walkthrough on that for you. So I thought it would be important that council see this as we move along and get design build proposals on this to meet our needs. But I haven't seen anything that I think that's around that is really 21st century like this situation here. And Mr. Chairman, it meets literally all the conversations that council has had. And why reinvent something that's already there? And there is a state purchasing availability for that. Let me get a glass of water here. I'm not done, but you have a question on this particular thing? No, okay. All right. Next, there was some discussion at the last meeting. I'm going to ask the finance director when he makes his reports on the fund balance issue. And as you can see, I have at the podium here my response to the council president of the city, and maybe we can address that at a caucus meeting and discuss it. But in a nutshell, the fund balances of our city are imperative to our financial strength and our ability going forward. And much of the ratings that are done, I think there's some impression that, you know, you do this presentation to Fitch when you borrow money, and that's about the end of it, and after that, you can operate in a manner as you see fit. And clearly, council has the authority to spend the city's money. They're the authorizing authority. If you look at your ratings and the report that I've given you, the thing that stands out the most is a recognition of our policies in operating the city. And in the corner of one of the reports I gave you, it shows the history of our ratings and where we were stable and where we were negative. And you can see the years that our enhanced policies and fund balances that we accrued over that time is why we got the rating that we did. And I think what's really important I gave you a copy of the press release as well. It's attached, and you go through there that where Fitch recognizes the very important issue of they believe that the city will maintain a reserve safety margin above the A level through economic downturns. And when you read the total report, when I talk to you about the volatility of NASA and Ford, that's why it's important. And clearly what I want to make the impression to the citizens is when you have a savings account and you spend it, it's gone. It's not there anymore. And it's imperative because of our volatility of those industries to make sure that we do that. So when we go from 14 to 42, that's a very good thing. And while someone can say we have tens of millions of dollars to expend, we do. There are reasons for those funds. There are reasons there are balances in those funds. And if you look at the overall review of Fitch, they will tell you our adaptability and our versatility to move things is what, again, gives us strength. But make no mistake about it, council would have to make a decision. You want to build a pool? You want to fix your roads? What do you want to do? This year, we decided that where we had our surplus, we would transfer that money from the general fund to provide $3 million for roads improvements. So while those balances are there, there should be great and prudent discussion about changing our policies, and I hope that Greg can go in there. I believe there's also a chart in Fitch's evaluation that show why it's important of what we've been doing, and the proof is in the pudding as to what financial shape that we are in right now. But make no mistake about it, we who have to deal with this budget every day, it's council's responsibility to pass it. It's our responsibility to make the arguments as to why and how money should be appropriated. But the fact is that the volatility in making those decisions and changing policy could have a very adverse effect on this city. And I don't think anybody wants to return to, 2012, 2013, where we were spending reserves to operate. We've made great strides, and that's something that people don't see. They're finally seeing it in the improvements that are going around the city right now. So finally, I hope that we have this discussion, and I welcome a dialogue about this issue so that folks get a clear impression of what's reality and what is not. And so again, that are my views, and Mr. Chairman, I hope that we, in the future, we have a discussion. I've also provided to you, there was discussions about how do we meet all the aquatic needs of the people of the city. I gave you an article, it's Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. One of the things we looked at when we made the improvement to the rec center was a lazy river and an indoor-outdoor pool. In Chambersburg, they're doing an outdoor pool with the lazy river and the other improvements. That cost $7 million. If we did an indoor-outdoor pool, which then would meet our needs all year long, I think it would be substantially more than that. So if we're going to have a dialogue about that, we're going to have to talk about how we're going to pay for it. And I would argue that the same operating problems that exist now will exist then. And I think we have to put that decision down the road. I want to see what effect, when the daycare centers move out of the rec, how we're going to support the pool that we have right now. And that's a limited outdoor facility. I guess our seniors are going to go there. They were talking about what attire they were supposed to wear or lack thereof at the senior meeting today. They have a serious discussion about that. And I think because this year we've accomplished some things that everyone thinks everything's okay. Well, it's not. I'm not the gloom and doom person. I deal with reality, and I've done it in this city for over 20 years. And I've seen the fluctuations, and I've adjusted to them with sound policy, and the finance director and I have been partners in that. So, again, you can see the proof of our work, and to vary from that, I think would take some very, very serious discussion going forward. I'm sorry that I was long in my report, Mr. Chairman, but I thought it was important to know. And finally, my final thing, there were some discussions about the city of Middleburg Heights. When Middleburg Heights built their new rec and service center, they increased the city income tax by the vote of the people 0.75% to provide for that. And I believe that that's going to be coming off, but that's how they paid for it. So my challenge to council is always, is that we have, Mr. Troyer used the thing about mouths to feed. We have many mouths to feed. We have many demands for service. And unless we continue to change the dynamics of delivering those services, they're going to have to be curtailed. And what we did here was achieve these results by changing operations, changing the way we deliver services, giving modest increases to our employees, and maintaining a number of employees that allowed us to do that and provide our services. So gone are the days where we can willy-nilly just say, we can afford this, we can do it. No, we have to make careful decisions, and I think that we have done that. So that is my comments for this evening. I also gave you the report from the engineer. He has a family matter this evening. This will update you on all the various projects going on around the city. And if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them. You can see that we opened the bids on Beaufin. Calvin is due at 6/13, and the Sylvia and Middleburg construction will begin advertising next week. So everything is in a good position right now, so this gives you an update to the City Council. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, any questions to Mayor? Mr. Salvatore, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, I have a couple questions here for you. The first one, I agree with you. I think we should table the ordinance that's on third reading this evening relative to the pools, especially in light of the couple meetings that you and I have had. And if you could you update us on that roof situation? I know we got some issues going on with that roof.
What's at issue here, again, my original proposal was just to place the pools outside the locker rooms. When endless pools come out, they thought it would be better, we'd be better served putting them in the pool itself, which I still think is probably the best way to go. The contractors coming out, look at number one, the interior structure of the roof is getting worse. It's not getting better. So therefore, we have to, however we enclose it, we're going to have to put an exterior roof on the building for that purpose. So the contractors are coming out, again, this would be a design build because it's unique. They would like to be able to give us both alternatives, putting it in the pool, keeping it outside the pool, again, because of the size of the structure and what will be supported. We're also going to do a core boring in the floor of the existing walk-around of the pool, determine whether or not we can put the pool on that structure, or if we put it right behind the locker rooms, can we depress the pool, the endless pools in the existing floor without going into the pool? At the end of the day, no one's told me that they don't believe that that entire roof should be removed from the superstructure of the pool. And so I've said, fine, and I have two people from Pennsylvania that are coming in that want to make a proposal. So it has no effect on the rest of it. And again, council shouldn't vote on it until they know what the cost is going to be. So I don't have any problems with that.
And I do know that several members of council have planned a road trip to go out and look at some of these ideas and get some firsthand knowledge on how they're functioning and get some feedback from the people who are using them. So I think in light of that, along with what you presented this evening, I think it would be a great idea if we move to table that when we get to that part of the agenda. But if I could continue, I would, in the absence of the service director, I would just like to say that I compliment the service director, Mr. Mayor, that the way that those flags were put up for the Memorial Bridge, I think it came out better than I had imagined in the first place. And I've been working with the fellow that did the signs, and I'm going to be sending you over a proof to improve that sign so it can be read a little better from the people passing by. And I saw the first draft, and I think you're going to like it. I'm going to get it over to you sometime tomorrow. And if you could check your schedule, I'll call you tomorrow. I'd like to have a meeting and talk to you about a couple families that had missed the sidewalk program, but now they're out of that neighborhood, primarily over around Van Wert, over in the Ward 3 area. And I wanted to talk to you if there's any way possible that someone who missed the cutoff for that area, if there's any way they can get back into the program. So I have that I want to talk to you about. And finally, I'm glad you clarified about all the ducks up by Mally's. Because Mancini left me a message. I didn't quite understand it. He says, you want to go up and get some chocolate-covered quackers, and I couldn't figure out what the hell he was talking about, but now I know.
Quack, quack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The comment on the flag holders over there, the wind, bearing wind is unbelievable. And we were over there, we want to have all the services represented on the posts. And the way they're angled there, they got an American flag has got to go straight. We were there the other day. They were wrapping around each other, so we have to go back out there and space them more because the wind is just considerable. And we're getting a lot of compliments on it, and a few of our veterans naturally said, you got to do this, and you got to do that. And we want to make sure everybody's represented according to the POWs as well. So while we're satisfied right now, there's a few improvements that we have to make.
Thank you.
Signs would be welcome.
Is that it, Councilman Salvatore?
That's it, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, a few things. First off, I'd like to say I like that, what they have there in Lakewood. I'll be the first to say when somebody or something is a little better. I've said that all along. I thought we should have tablets, and I do love this room. I do think this has got a lot of heritage in it, but we do need to get up to date. So I absolutely, everything I've seen on there, I think that's seems like a great little project there, and hopefully we could to get to that point. So yeah, I'm going to get over there and go see. And actually, one time I called over there just to check on the signs for the beautification. The mayor answered, and a nice little talk with him, so I'd like to meet him personally, hopefully. But as I'm out, Mayor, I'm doing the streets, and I'm probably going on my 11th Street now, and two of the biggest things that go hand in hand are flooding and basements with the water, and the speeding and stop signs follow right behind that. That said, the pool maybe not as much. What I do hear a lot of is a steam sauna whirlpool. And could you please open the rec center at 6? You know, I'll let you comment on that. Now, I didn't know that would be tabled tonight, because my recommendation was gonna be maybe to put it back on caucus, have more discussion, get some more answers, and maybe bring it up 2 weeks from now in the next council meeting. Give it some extra time so a lot of people could get them questions answered. You say, how do we pay for it? But I was in that room with Councilman Troyer and our rec director, Mary Ann Fields, and ironically, I think Tom came up to look at something up there, and I wanted to go water some flowers, and we all ended up going in there. It's a big space. When there's no water in there and the lights ain't on, and you're into that big part of that building, that the Cavs could play in there tomorrow night. I mean, that's how big that is. And you still have the stands up there. So when you say pay for it, I say, how are we going to heat that place, regardless of how we're going to do it? And that's maybe a question, maybe not. But that is a big room. So how are we going to heat it? Any way we do it, that's the answer I'd like to get, how we're going to heat it. If you want to touch on that, you can. I have one more question. Feel free. If not, I got another question for you.
You want me to answer what you have so far?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead,
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Okay, you give me the specific addresses of the flooding so we can test them and find out what happened. On the speeders, again, we're moving the boxes around. We met with the chief. One of the things I've been impressed with, some of the different communities, they have these signs, drive down the street like your kids live on it. And we're gonna post those around, and maybe, I don't think people realize how fast they're driving, to be very candid with you.
Right.
And I see them, they're the moms running the kids around, and the fathers running the kids around, and the kids running themselves around. So we're gonna try that as well, and again, as you know, we got the drop program going, and so hopefully that'll dress up. As far as the recreation building is concerned is this, I believe the long-term interest of the city. That roof has to be taken off of that building. I don't see any way you can avoid that. If that's the case, the roof can be lowered and provide another junior gym, expansion of our exercise area, a long-awaited indoor community center we haven't had since we've had the Spang Mansion. And you can see the other night at the party, you were there, Jim, of the multiple uses that our building can address for people's entertainment. And I think if we're really going to be serious about doing a pool that meets everybody's needs, an indoor-outdoor pool is what we proposed way back when. Still, I think, cities are closing them for the most part, particularly indoor pools, because they're cost prohibitive. So as far as that building is concerned, I don't envision long-term a remedy that entails opening that diving pool and that pool again. If we're going to be serious about it, let's find out what people really want, because the numbers in the past didn't justify it, and I don't see it doing it now. Brooklyn's looking at closing their rec center and moving their city hall there and totally their pool and everything else, and trying to rent out their city hall. So we're not the only ones going through this. So I think what we need to do is let's get through this election, because certainly people can make their arguments about it and have a real frank discussion. The issue is, no matter how high the roof is and no matter what you have in there, the cost of operating it is $200,000 a year. We just cannot afford to do that, not and maintain our other issues until we have new revenue sources by economic development, and or that we have a new revenue source. Now, we got a response from Ford Motor Company today. I want to thank the Sun News reporter for indicating that I was contemplating and suing Ford Motor Company. What's more accurate is citing them for their violations, which I guess is one and the same. And supposedly the gentleman from Ford Land is going to be calling me and giving me a new exciting development, and I'm looking forward to that, quite frankly. And if that would occur again, it changes our situation. So it's more complex, but clearly, why are we doing the energy efficiency on the rest of the building? Because it's cost us money and our systems are antiquated. And more than that can be said about the pool. When you go in, and I know that you and Councilman Troyer was there, and you look at that thing, We put 3 different roofs on that. And you can see the original roof interior of the building is rotting. The 2 roofs that are on there are leaking. We're concerned about the tuck pointing, and maybe I'm just gonna have to go get a structural engineer to go up there and take a look at it and make a report. It might be worse than we know. You have the report that we gave you just to replace and repair the exterior roof was about $825,000. So if we're going to get involved in that kind of a change, that's a whole larger discussion. And unless things change, I don't see us being in a position to address that situation short term, probably long term. But I think reuse of the existing structure for the needs that we know that we have that are reasonable, I think is something that more is palatable for us. And, we've looked at this in the past. We've shared our facilities. I read about the Cub Scouts. If they're a Brook Park resident, I'm sure we can go to Strongsville and say, if our people are using that, we can give them a pass, buy a pass for those folks that use the pool, like they used to do for ours. Or if there's other citizens who are members of our rec that want to take advantage of some other city's facility, and we can work out a reduced rate for them, and the city subsidized for it, it'd be a lot cheaper than, I'm sure, $200,000 in operating and over $1 million in capital. Maybe that's the way we have to go forward, but that is the kind of discussions we're going to have, Councilman.
Okay, not an easy thing to do, I concur. One other thing, Mayor, as I've been out and about, I caught a resident that asked me a question yesterday, and it wasn't he's not in my ward, but he had said that somebody was at his door, and seeing how me and you both had started our little career at the service department, and he had said that somebody had told him at the door that he's got flooding in his backyard, and there's a sewer system back there that the city put it in. And I think he was kind of inclinating like that somebody told him that the city should fix it. My question is that my years down there, I don't ever remember us theoretically going in somebody's backyard. I don't. I know we do sewer calls, and sometimes we do sewer calls at the clean out, but I don't remember us going in a backyard. The thing I said to him, and I could be wrong, is, well, who do you pay your sewer and water bills to? Things of that sort. But by no means is it the first time I heard it, and I'm not going to sit there and accuse it, because I've heard residents say that. Well, don't you guys do the backyard? Don't you guys dredge the back? Doesn't the city do something for the flooding in the backyard? Because like I'd said earlier, that's probably one of the questions. That and the basement thing is that, again, go one next to the other. When I go to a door, somebody says, "Why am I flooding in my backyard?" Hey, we flooded in the basement. But I just know that people put pools in, they put sheds in, they elevate their yards with gardens, things of that sort. Our houses are so close through the 50, 60 years that we've been built. I know them backyards ain't all level. You take a street right there, let's take Gilmer. I know all them backyards just don't stand perpendicular to each other. So, but I don't, Aaron, it's a question. I mean, maybe in your career you did early in the years they did it in the 60s, but 70s, 80s. But I really don't remember us going back there doing that. Do I stand corrected?
Boy, Mr. Chairman, can I answer that question?
Did you hear a question?
Yeah, no, I didn't, but he said, could I stand corrected? Yes, you can. Okay, here's the history. There was a time that the city installed backyard drains and was found to be illegal by the auditor of state. We bought a ditch witch, we put plastic piping in some areas, and quite frankly, they weren't put in correctly. Brook Park, when it was built, did not provide subdivision rear yard drainage plans like they do. Probably every development mistake in the west side of the county was made here, particularly those kinds of issues. Now, do we check things out for people and try to help them? I know Mr. Troyer has an issue, and here's his word. The answer to the question is yes. And maybe what we do is in our appropriations next year, if we find that there are a number of these issues, the 50-50 program always works. That maybe the city goes and this is a help program, an assistance program that the residents participate in. We come in and shoot the topo. In some of these cases, it could be a shovel full of dirt. In some cases, they have to provide, okay, and then the issue becomes, where do you tie these drains into? put them in the downspouts, people have footer problems, so it's complicated. But that's one thing that we could look at. So this, in fact, the city did, when Rod and Jordan was the service director to help folks out, it was an ill-conceived, it was well-intentioned, but ill-conceived program that was determined to be an improper expenditure of funds on private property. So I'd be willing to look at that, maybe discussion with the engineer, and that's maybe what we do as part of our incentives under the community development program in the future.
Thank you, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate
Mr.
it.
Chairman, for the record, I wanted to show that he was corrected.
Good job, Mayor.
Thank you,
Always
Mr.
often,
Chairman.
and these guys all, see up here,
Councilman Bergio,
they think I talk
you
too
said you were
much.
done,
so-
Councilman.
See, they think I talk too much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, I'm looking forward to checking out the facilities there in the new council chamber and the upgrades, and especially the technology that we'll be implementing. You mentioned less paper. That's the trend. The school district is really going paperless, and I'm glad to see that we're doing that too. That's another plus. But I wanted to also comment on the Memorial Day Parade. So many people are grateful for the turnout that was done, especially post-610. So I think it was a good thing for our city, and I was glad to see it. But I did want to point out that we had another singer here. She's in the audience, Roberta Cook. She joined us in singing that too, and she provided a lot of the harmony, so didn't want to leave her out. You know,
Well, I was
so-
reluctant to mention her because she's a professional and she demands royalties.
but that I didn't know. But I'm still not going to retract that. Thanks for coming out. You did a good job. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Before we leave that, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Councilman Bergio, because whatever he did, shamed, threatened, coerced, to get the Mid-Park Band as part of our facilities, it made the parade, and people were really excited about it, and we want to thank you for getting that accomplished.
I'm grateful that they came out too. Thank you.
Council, any other questions to the mayor? Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. So Mayor, that area that I'd approached you on, sent a memo about, would be about the flooding, backyard flooding, would you be able to do anything on that this year? Help them out a little, because they constantly have an issue with it wiping out their backyards.
The director's on vacation this week. I've talked to him about it. We'll go out and analyze it with the engineer and see if we can do something.
I think another approach may be, if it's illegal for us to spend a lot of money on that, is to find out what the problem is, because if somebody went in and backfilled their backyard or did that kind of thing, that we may request that the homeowner that changed the level of his yard, creating the problem, would have to fix it.
Good luck on that one. We put everybody in Brook Park in jail. Let us see what we can do.
He doesn't have a railroad back there, does he?
Because I'm sure this wasn't like that when these houses were first built and these yards were first leveled off.
Okay, in your particular situation, I believe there was a swale there. I think the city at one time had a right-of-way, if I recall, and they have to check this. There was a limited drainage area back there. And I don't know if we still have that or not, or if that was just one of those imaginary easements that we took responsibility for because the people didn't take care of it. So that's what I have to find out. But I do remember a drainage-type basin with a swale of some sorts there. And what happens is, just like when we get the railroad to clean out ditches, people start dumping their grass clippings back there and there's problems. So let us go in there, let's see what it looks like, and we'll let you know what we think we can do or what the problem's gonna be corrected. But to get people to change their grades, unless it's perverse, is, I'll let you handle that one.
That'd be beyond my authority, I believe, and we know how that goes. Another question would be on the roof of the rec center. One of my thoughts were, you mentioned that it would cost $1 million to take the old one down completely and then leave us with nothing. So there'd be still some cost of putting whatever back we put back. And you have $108,000, a high estimate, to replace it. I think part of the problem with that roof is that it was never done right. Because if you look at it, it's leaking. Most of the leaks are where the skylights used to be. And that just means that it was never done in one fell swoop, which is the way it should have been done. So my concern is to look at you know, it's gonna cost us less to tear it all off and replace it than it is to remove it. Why wouldn't we just do that if possible, and then build false roofs down below to lower our heating costs, depending on what we do? And I think there could be 2 stories on the area over the dive pool. So just some thoughts. And I would request or like it if you would, any estimates you get for as far as engineers, that'd be great for whatever needs to be done, that there be 3 of them. So we could have ideas of 3 of people's, whatever the engineer says, 3 opinions on what the issue is, 3 opinions on what it costs, that kind of thing. And then so we can make an educated decision. Thank you.
Okay, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead,
that's
Mayor.
exactly what you're going to get, because there's 3 different ideas of how to correct it. Again, to me, that building, your analysis, as I told you, the history, because I was here when they did build it, there was no pool in the building. And when they came I think it was 96, with the big mud flap, this was going to be the solution to the roofing problem. And that's what I called it, because that's what it looked like. No problem, we're going to put this down, this is going to solve all your problem, the condensation, the leaking, everything else. It did not do that. I didn't even know until I got here that there was another roof put on the building, and I'm sure that the administration, the council was told, we'll put this metal over the rubber, and that'll solve the problem. Well, it didn't. So again, if we're going to take the roof off, it makes no sense to have those ceiling heights. We put a new roof and reuse the building. And if we're going to address aquatics, let's do it right. Let's do an indoor-outdoor that can be used all year long, and let's give the young and old alike the attractions that they need. There's a considerable cost for that. Okay, we have needs of space at that building. We could use another junior gym. We don't have a place that people can have weddings. We can facilitate that there. And there are improvements to be made to the downstairs area to utilize it well. So we can really have, people forget how big that building is. And when you really go in there, I think the crime, and that everyone thinks I've been around forever, but that building predated me. It was built in 1972. And when you go in and you look at that pool, there's not another municipal pool that was designed like that one. With the diving tanks, with the spectator area, somebody got, that is a competitive pool, aquatic site, all right? And I think if the schools still want to come and say, hey, listen, we think we ought to go there rather than building a pool at the high school, and we think we ought to turf your fields out here in partnership with us, I'm willing to listen to it. But I don't think you're going to see that happen. We cannot afford, in my view, to recapture that place over there with the roof, because we're going to take it off again. I think the best use is, again, to lower it to respectable heights to make it manageable to operate. And having said that, no matter what we do at the rec, because I'm hearing this, we're doing this and we're subsidizing that. Yeah, we're subsidizing our total rec operation because it can't stand alone. And many of our other operations are the same thing. So again, how do we put a cherry on each piece of the pie and try to facilitate as many needs as we can? That building, when you sit in there and you look at it, particularly the pool area, again, is inefficient. And when you sit in there and you see it empty, while it's enormous, you see the enormity of the problem it is to remedy. It's not simple, and it's all costly.
Thank you, that's it.
Council, any other questions to the mayor? You see no other questions, we'll move the agenda. We'll move from letter H into letter I, which is reports and communications from departments, commissions, and other public officials. We don't have the engineer and the service director here, but I will ask any council member if they would like to ask a question maybe to the mayor. If you came here
Right.
needing an engineering question answered or a service department question answered, so, council? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move to the safety.
Actually, I do.
Okay, Councilman Troyer?
Mr. Mayor, there's is a service department going to be out still filling chuck holes? There's quite a few streets, in at least
Yes.
in Ward 1, that still need chuck holes.
Yes.
Okay, thank
They're
you.
always filling chuck holes. That's inevitable.
These are ones left over from winter, so
Well, they were hitting different areas, so the answer to your question is yes. If you want to give me particular streets, I'll write them down and we'll get them over there.
in the next week, I plan on driving the ward, and I'll give you
Thank
a
you.
nice list. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Okay, seeing no other questions, then we'll move to the Safety Director, Mr. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To begin my report tonight, I should comment on what the mayor was referring to at the fire department. The fire department had a ceremony this week where they awarded some golden storks to certain individuals who very successfully delivered a baby. And it's really fitting that that recognition be given because I think oftentimes we don't think about what type of job it is being a paramedic in a city like Brook Park or in any other city. These people go on runs, and quite a lot of those runs don't end very well. A lot of them are runs that you remember the rest of your life. Speaking as somebody who did that job for 27 years, I can tell you that there are some people who still exist in my mind. But the fact is there are some runs that really make you feel good. When you deliver a baby and start a new life, that's really an uplifting experience. And it was great that they did it successfully. As somebody who on the fire department was involved in 4 deliveries, I can tell you 2 things for sure. Much like the military that tells you that there's no atheists in foxholes, there's no atheists in a fire department who delivers a baby at someone's house. I can tell you that for sure. Second thing I can tell you is a great uplifting experience when it happens. So I was glad that the mayor made the ceremony and was there for that event. And these guys do good work. We have a very well-trained staff, but all the training in the world still makes delivering a baby an exciting experience and a stressful one as well. So I wanted to publicly acknowledge that. I want to thank Councilman Salvatore for asking today that you pass their contract tonight with suspending the rules. The contract is mostly in effect. It should be passed, and I would like to see them have that as soon as we can. I would appreciate your consideration of that. I also want to report, a couple weeks ago, we were very privileged here in Brook Park. The University Hospital sponsored the kickoff of their Using the Seatbelt campaign, and it was at our rec center. We had representatives here from about 35 or 40 police departments, and got a little bit of news coverage, and I personally welcomed all the policemen to Brook Park that were here, and they signed the rock in front that our DARE officer provided. And it was a pretty nice event. And I want to remind everybody to please wear their seatbelt. It's important. The last thing I want to report on is we've had a lot of calls lately of problems with deer in people's yards and deer getting hurt in the neighborhoods. And some people have reported, some people are feeding the deer because they're very cute and loving animals. But when they get hurt, they either get humanely destroyed or they don't recover, and it costs money to remove them. And I know they're a problem every year, but this particular year, there's more calls about deer than I recall at any given time. So if you have a neighbor who's putting cracked corn out to feed the deer, please ask them not to do it. It violates the city ordinance, and it also causes a safety hazard. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that completes my report.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions to the Safety Director? Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Through the chair to the Safety Director, Mr. Burns. There's been some issues with speeding on Fry between Holland and Holland and Southway and or Sheldon. A lot of Facebook complaints too. Have you done anything in the last couple of weeks? I talked to you a couple of weeks ago. Have you been able to do anything or accomplish anything over there against speeding?
Through the chair to the councilman, I did place that area on for the speed regulator, the trailer as well, and I think it's the next place it's going to go. We've had stepped up enforcement. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because today we actually had ticketed somebody that was actually going 70 miles an hour on Friday.
Jeez.
So we have stepped up enforcement, but and we have had stopped some people, and we are having some success. The police chief and I talked about it last week, and I think it's had an effect, but we did have one today.
Yeah, I thank you on that. I appreciate it. And I'd just like to state that a lot of people are concerned that the residents will get tickets, but I can just say that I back the police up if it's a legit ticket. Residents don't come to me because you shouldn't be speeding your neighborhood or any. Thank you.
Councilman Mancini?
Thank you. I'll kind of bounce a little bit off that. Well, Dave, I mean, that was a good report. You had mentioned the sign, and the mayor mentioned the drop program, and I'm aware what the drop program is now. You know, I know I've had that sign sometimes on Holland Road twice, on Michael twice, maybe 3 times. You had it right here on Sylvia, I think the last week of school. Are we putting, like, because people will come and call me and tell me and bitch, they got a parking ticket or whatever but are we on the side streets? Are we sitting at the stop signs? I mean, I'm asking.
Through the chair and the councilman, I daily get a report of the parking tickets that are issued. For example, people that buy at the parking lots, and there's always in excess of 7 or 8, 9 a day, more on the weekends. So I know that it's being enforced. We do work the side streets, we work the neighborhoods. Our primary responsibility is to protect the safety of the citizens of Brook Park, and part of that is traffic control. I would ask people to use some common sense, and I think the mayor was correct in saying some people really aren't aware of how fast they're traveling, and we're trying to gently remind them. The signs the mayor mentioned we have ordered, which basically can stick in your yard and say, drive on this street like your kids are playing on it, words to that effect. It's, hopefully that will help. And the program is not the drop, it's the stop program, Councilman.
Stop, drop. Well, my question is
About the same
again,
thing.
I hear you
I
on the
would've said
parking,
drop.
but I hear you, I hear you on that, but I'm asking again, I mean, I see cars parking on front yards. I'm not saying they're doing a great job, they are, absolutely. I know them guys, they do a good job. I'm asking you if they're a sign, hey, guys, if you see a car parked on the front yard, I get the weekends, graduation parties. When you see that, guys, whatever, no more parking on the front yard. I'm asking you, like, are we sitting at the, again, are we sitting at the stop signs? Are we on the, let me use a street like Richard. Do we sit in the middle with the unmarked car under a tree and nail somebody once? That's what I'm asking you.
Councilman, through the chair and the councilman, we don't necessarily use the unmarked car, we use the marked car, and we have patrolmen that during the day are assigned to certain areas and zones, and they watch those, and they work up to a certain performance standard. So we do check that. When I get a call about, or this department gets a call about a car in a tree lawn, 100% of the time it's investigated and taken care of.
It is,
And
I
so,
agree with you.
But it's also a matter, I think a patrolman who's patrolling a zone, he may not necessarily notice a car parked on someone's lawn because he's busy doing other things. We do have in excess of about 30,000 calls for service from the police department annually, maybe 32,000. And there's an awful lot of calls. But the fact is, every time they notice it, they do take care of it. They work very hard. And every time I get a call from a council person or a resident, I can tell you that within a very short period of time, it's investigated and it's taken care of. And that's going to continue.
I'm done.
That answered your question.
Thank you. Council, any other questions, Safety Director? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Burns. We'll move to the Law Director, Mrs. Horvath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll endeavor to be brief. As of today, we have 2 pending civil cases that the city of Brook Park is involved in. First is one that I had previously discussed where the city is named in a foreclosure because we have a tax lien on the property. The second case was filed on May 23rd, and it is a case of 16644 Snow Road LLC versus Brook Park. It's a request for injunctive relief that arose out of the circumstances surrounding the closing of Howard Johnson's. We've already been before the judge, and we've had the hearing on the temporary restraining order, and the temporary restraining order was denied. Howard Johnson's will, at this point, remain closed, and the city will follow up and file their answer in a timely manner. Other than that, I have nothing further to report.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions to the Law Director? Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Madam Law Director, I got to dance around this a little bit. There's an issue in my ward involving another city. Can we get an update on that? Do you have any information right now? I understand there's a meeting scheduled, or might have been done already. Would it help for us to go into executive session right now? And can you offer any information on that to us in executive session tonight?
I would say that to have an executive session on that matter tonight would be premature.
Okay.
We do have a meeting set up with some folks in your ward, and we have a follow-up session on that matter that will be next month. So I think that it's premature now, but, we'll certainly have an executive session and discuss that.
Okay, I appreciate it as soon as possible.
Thank you.
So any other questions of the law director? Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up on the request for executive session on a topic, I'm not familiar what the topic is, but is the topic eligible for executive session discussion? That's through the chair to the law director.
The topic is a matter which is not currently in litigation, but has been something that's been discussed previously in executive session. It's sort of an ongoing situation that has developed over the course of several years. And right now, I would say that it's probably not ripe for discussion in executive session, or, is still proceeding through with the steps that we need to outline before we get to a point where there might possibly be litigation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I see no other questions. Thank you, Mrs. Horvath. We'll move to the Finance Director, Mr. Single.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few things tonight. Monthly reports for May will be distributed in the next couple days. As always, if there are any questions, please feel free to give me a call. The 2016 audit is continuing. We expect that to be finished here in the next couple of weeks, and once it's finalized, we will keep council or inform council of any findings that or the results of the audit. The Finance Department thanks council for their consideration this evening, hopeful passage of the 2018 tax budget. We thank you for that. And just to add a couple comments to the mayor's comments with respect to the report that was issued from Fitch Ratings. As we go through this process, and I've been through numerous rating reviews, the biggest driver, the biggest concern that the rating agencies have is the economic concentration in Ford and NASA. And if you look at page 1 of the publicized report, and if any resident would like a copy of the publicized report, please give me a call and we can make it available. But on page 1, under rating sensitivities, economic concentration, it states, the rating is sensitive to fundamental changes in activity at Ford Motor Company or NASA, which anchor the city economy. Any non-cyclical decline in activity at either could have significant negative impact on city finances and lead to a downward rating adjustment or action. So that fund balances help offset the rating analyst's concern or the rating company's concern or concerns over the economic concentration that the city possesses in Ford and NASA. Another key component to the city's success in being a AA- rated community is in our low level of outstanding debt. So the city has long-term liability, which is low relative to the resource base. So that scores in what I'll say are scores in a AAA rated category, and our operating performance, that's where the fund balance is actually recorded or recognized. That scores in a AA category. So for the audiences and for council's information, the rating companies score on AAA. There's a AAA rating. There's a AA1, a AA2, a AA3, or a AA plus, a double A, and a double A minus. And then you have an A category, you have A, I call it A plus, A, and then A minus. And then there's triple B category. City of Brook Park rates in a double A minus category, which is a very strong rating. So the next level up for us would be double A. Next level down would be A plus or A1, depending on the rating agency scoring. So our economic or our operating performance scores in the double A category, long-term liability burden scores in the triple A ranking, and then our revenue framework and our expenditure framework both score in the A ranking. So for the revenue performance, which scoring in the A ranking, Fitch, as they review it, expects the city's revenue growth to be below the rate of inflation. And then when they look at our expenditure framework, they look at it and their forecast is expenditure growth would likely increase at a rate above revenue growth, absent policy action. So the fund balances are important. Again, they score in a double A rated category. It's important that we continue to keep these fund balances, moving forward to continue to receive the double A minus rating. Now, for council's information and also the residents' information, Fitch at any time could ask, or rating agency at any time could ask for a surveillance review. So they come at any time they see some negative news. There's a downturn at Ford. There's downturn at NASA. They could contact us and ask to review the rating again, and at that time, possibly adjust the city rating accordingly. So it doesn't just happen when the city goes out to issue debt. It can happen at any time. Usually they try to do their surveillances at least once a year or once every 2 years. So again, it's important that we do, given our economic concentration, that we do continue to maintain fund balances, which I'll call in that double A rated category, so that we can maintain our double A minus rating with Fitch ratings. And that concludes my report tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Single. Council, are there any questions of Finance Director? Councilman Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greg, if we could go back here a little bit, the rating that we do have, that's a pretty good rating considering what we're right now with Ford being what it is, or could be, good or bad. With NASA, what it could be, good or bad, if they pull out, or Ford, God forbid, pulls back a little bit. They know that could happen because they are, them type of industries. I believe you had said one time, Berea's got the college campus, Middleburg, I believe, has the hospital, so them are pretty solid. They're basically not going nowhere. But considering all that said, that is a pretty good rating. In the decline in population that we have, I think they hit on here 2%. If them things were to take a different turn, as well as some type of something with our revenue or what's in our fund balance, as you had said, could be a big problem on that rating. Do I stand corrected?
Through the chair, to Councilman Mancini, I agree with everything you stated.
Okay, all right. Just one question too, Greg, and I'm done. The city has, on the revenue framework, a factor assessment, the city has a substantial degree of independent legal ability to raise revenue. Well, maybe being naive to some of this, although I do my own stocks and stuff, but does that mean like raise a tax or, get a big business, maybe something does happen with Ford? Is that what that's saying in that sentence?
Through the chair to Councilman Mancini, yes. One example would be reducing the income tax credit. Right now, we give 100% credit up to 2% that a resident who works pays to their workplace municipality. So if they work in Middleburg Heights and pay 2% to Middleburg Heights, they don't pay any tax to the city of Brook Park in the form of income tax on that income. If we reduced our income tax credit, then they would be paying the city of Brook Park. So that's one way through council action that we could raise revenue, and that's a credit strength to the city when the rating agencies review our community.
And they like that? Yes, all right.
Through the chair to Councilman Mancini, they like the flexibility of that, yes.
Thank you, very important. Thank you, Greg, I appreciate that. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Council, any other questions of Finance? Councilman Troyer.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Through the chair to the Finance Director, Mr. Single. Just thinking the residents wouldn't like that last suggestion, but anyways.
You don't know
Mr.
that.
Mr. Single, as far as the bond rating, what would the ramifications be if our bond rating went down tomorrow?
Through the chair to Councilman Troyer, any further, for future borrowings would be impacted, and
Well,
there'd be a
first,
higher
what
interest
would
rate to
it,
pay.
how would it affect anything we have going on right now?
Through the chair to Councilman Troyer, it wouldn't affect any borrowings that are in place
Right,
today.
everything would stay intact?
Correct.
Okay, so it would only affect future borrowing,
Correct.
right? So if, let's say we wanted to go out and borrow $3 million to do streets, it'd be better to do that for our rating than it would be to take the money out of our reserves. And if we did take the $3 million out, we'd still have our fund balance reserve policy, which I believe is about 3.3, is that right around that area?
Through the chair to Councilman Troyer, it's a little bit more than that. The
Oh, yeah, because our
If-
budget's
if-
up.
Yeah, if we went out to the public and added additional debt, now we're gonna put stress on our long-term liability burden, which now scores in the AAA rated category. So there'll be some pressure on that. I don't know how much we could borrow where it would move that scoring from, say, the AAA rated category down to the AA rated category. So, that would be a function, or that'd be a question for the rating agencies for them to determine, where in their analysis does that scoring, or does that added debt service
So if we used,
impact
if we used
the
a
long-term
few $1
liability.
million for a capital improvement project, our current money, that's not earmarked for anything. If we did that, that might lower our rating. But if we borrowed that money instead, that would still possibly lower our rating.
Through the chair, Councilman Troyer. If we use the fund balance, a few $1 million on fund balances, so we drew down from the 8.6 million that's referenced in the report down to, say, 6 million, it's going to put negative pressure on the rating and likely would reduce the bond rate. I won't speak for the rating agencies, as I said in the past, but it's going to put downward pressure on the rating. If we borrow $2 million or so, $2.6 million or so for street improvements, I don't know that it would impact the rating enough. It would put stress on the rating. I don't know that it would be enough to reduce the bond rating down to, say, an A+, or put us into the A category. Again, that would be a question for the rating agencies to look at the level of debt burden at that time.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, to comment on.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Fine, thank you. That's what we did this year. The surplus we determined would be used to pay cash for roads. We think that's the most prudent way to move forward. So you're suggesting a borrow for an identified contract. Let's just say that's this pool, and you're going to participate by borrowing $3 million. Somewhere in your capital split, you're going to have to provide for that cost in paying that loan back. So that will have an impact. The other thing that's going on in the market too right now, there are cities that these bond people are getting nervous, are looking at projects and what are the nature of the project of these borrows, because there are cities that are defaulting on bonds. As a matter of fact, there was a talk at one time recently that it was going to be difficult to be in the municipal bond market. So there's all kinds of factors that affect that. So again, our policy is, we've provided this year where we have $3 million to spend cash for roads. I hope we have the same problem next year. And then council could argue if they want to spend $3 million on roads, or the pool, or a firehouse, or a fire truck, or whatever it may be. So that's the issue that you're in. You're going to have to pick and choose, but always maintaining this. And as you suggested, the flexibility that's at council's decision, in the event that there was an emergency fiscal call and the state came in and said, you have to do something to address your operating, there's a limited choice that you have, and one of them, most cities don't have 100% credit that we have. But that's a source. Our ability to do that helps us in our rating. There's no one suggesting that we do that. also the flexibility of saying, okay, this year's a problem, Ford didn't perform, or the Congress didn't fully fund NASA, or whatever it may be, then you're going to have to address where are you getting that operating from. It may be that you reduce your capital expenditures that year to make that work. But the thing that you cannot adjust, if you're borrowing money and you have that dollar amount that must be appropriated for the call of those bonds, that has to be maintained in that fund to pay for that. So when you look at it, the flexibility is good, but here's the reality of where we're at. And we're emerging out of this doldrum we've been in because of the policies that we have used to see a brighter future for ourselves. So if there's additional revenue coming in by economic development, which would be the ideal way, hopefully we'll be in this position again next year to make a decision on a few $1 million that we want to spend improving our city. My view is that's the path that we should travel rather than rating these fund balances for a need that may appear or somebody's whim. It takes a lot of discussion because, as you can see from Greg's narrative, you do this, it affects this, you do that, it affects this. What is your choices?
Okay. Seeing no other questions to Finance Director? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Through the chair to the Finance Director, I actually have some more questions for you. First of all, what did we take out of reserves this year? Was it 1.6 or 2.2? That actually came out of reserves.
Through the chair and Councilman Troyer, we didn't take any monies out of reserves. The operating surplus, or the excess of revenues over expenses in the general fund, was roughly $3.5 million. $250,000 went to the Economic Development Fund, and $3,250,000 went to roads.
Okay, so there wasn't a figure of about 1.6 that was left over from last year, which could have went in the reserves.
Through the chair to Councilman Troyer, the fund balance, the general fund balance at the beginning of the cash basis, at the beginning of 2016 was about $4.5 million. We began this year at about $5.6 million.
All right, so substantial. So if we would have kept that in reserves, put that in reserves, not appropriated that early on in the year, would that have lowered increased our rating and lowered our interest rate on the $5 million rec center deal?
Through the chair to Councilman Troyer, I don't believe so, because at the time we were working through the rating analysis, the budget wasn't finalized at that time, and we did explain to Fitch that we believe, based with our operating revenues, which included our fund balances, minus our expenses, would leave us the surplus that we used for economic development and infrastructure improvements.
Okay.
So they were aware of the fact that we were going to use those dollars accordingly. And again, that gives us added flexibility. They like to see that we did have an operating surplus, and that we had a plan for it, and we did let them know that we fully funded our fund balance reserve policy as well.
I seem to remember that we had to pass the budget before we could go out for that bond. So I think I think it's pretty much saying what I'm saying. I mean, I think if spending the money would lower our rating, why wouldn't saving the money or putting in our reserves increase the rating? I mean, you're talking about, I mean, there's different amounts.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I see how you're analyzing or how you're reviewing it. It wouldn't hurt, through the chair to Councilman Troyer, if again, we started the year with 5.5 million, roughly 5.6. We project to end the year, if all revenues were collected and all expenses were made, we would end the year at $3.8 million, which is the fund balance reserve policy. So I see now how you're analyzing and looking at spending down some of the balances. Again, that was planned. If we added the $1.7 million to and didn't spend it, could it increase the bond rating? Maybe yes. I can't speak for the rating agency, Fitch in this case. Our biggest challenge, Councilman Troyer, is the concentration in Ford and NASA. It is hard to overcome. Until we can
understand.
further diversify our tax base, and if we can get more jobs at Ford that aren't in the that aren't related to Ford and a different industry, or we get more jobs at Ford with other companies on that Ford side and with other companies, that'll further diversify our tax base, which will help us in our discussions with Fitch Rating.
Right. According to an article I read, we're one of three for that, was that plant two. So anyway, that's off topic. So, so if we get a better rating, if somehow we did get a better rating, that would lower our interest rate, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I add just one more
Go ahead,
comment?
Mr. Single.
Real brief. The auditor of state has done, and I don't know if I've mentioned this in previous council meetings, and if I have, I'll apologize, but I think it's worth mentioning again. The auditor of state has did a nice analysis of all communities in Ohio. And they have, it's a rating performance analysis. It's on the Auditor of State's, the Ohio Auditor of State's website. It's just right on the front, on the homepage. It'll say performance metrics or performance management measures or analysis. If you click on that, you can go in and you can see, I think there were 16 or 18 performance metrics that the auditor reviewed based on it. This is for 2015. They haven't had 2016's updated yet because the audits aren't finished. But they took all the audit reports, and you can go on Brook Park, you can go on Middleburg, you can go Berea, you can look at all the cities if you'd like, and you can see how Brook Park scored, and then you can look and see maybe how Middleburg scored or how Berea scored, whatever you want to review. But I think that'll give you some good insight onto the city of Brook Park finances and how we compare to other communities, and I think it's worth taking the time to review.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Single, before we move on, bringing up the state auditor thing, is there any progress being made on that open checkbook, working with them on that?
Mr. Chairman, I actually thought about that today. They have not contacted me. After council approved the resolution, we let the representative from the treasurer's office know that it was approved, and they said that they would have somebody contact me, and they haven't contacted me to date.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
thank you. All right, that concludes the items under letter I. We'll move to letter J, which is other communications and petitions and verbal approval. We have one item that's under verbal approval. It's the 2018 tax budget. Also, I'd like to entertain a motion that we provide verbal approval.
Motion to approve?
Support.
Okay. Motion to approve, properly supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
She said yes.
yes, Troyer,
Yes.
Bergia,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Okay, the 2018 tax budget has been provided verbal approval, removing some of the stress from the finance director tonight then. I'm sure he appreciates that. Now we go forward to introduction of new legislation. We have several pieces of legislation to be introduced. We have a ordinance that's being introduced by Mayor Coyne that amends section 1348 of the Brook Park Codified Ordinances dealing with front porches. We're going to put that in legislative. We have another ordinance introduced by Mayor Coyne that repeals chapter 921 of our ordinance that controls post-construction water quality runoff. That also will be placed in legislative. We have another ordinance that's introduced by Mayor Coyne repealing chapter 922, controlling construction site soil erosion sediment. That also will be placed in legislative. We then have an ordinance that's introduced by Mayor Coyne that enacts chapter 921 of the Brook Park Codified Ordinances dealing with controlling post-construction water quality runoff. That will be placed in legislative. We have another ordinance introduced by Mayor Coyne enacting Chapter 922, controlling construction site runoff and other wastes. That will be placed in legislative. We then have an ordinance that's going to be introduced by Council President Astorino that approves the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances, a part of the component codes of the codified ordinances. That will be placed in legislative. I will make note that some of the ordinances that are now being placed into committee have been in the law department's office, but they haven't been able to provide approval. But some of these are a little bit time sensitive, so we're going to introduce them, place them in committee, and in the meantime, the law department will hopefully, before it comes out of committee, will be providing their approval. We have an ordinance amending section 153.02C entitled Sick Leave. This is introduced by Council President Astorino. That will be placed in legislative. Ordinance amending section 153.01A5 entitled Vacations, introduced by Council President Astorino, will also be placed in legislative. And we have an ordinance introduced by Council President Astorino amending section 153.02A entitled Sick Leave. That's placed in legislative. And then we have an ordinance also introduced by Council President Astorino amending certain section 153.01E2 dealing with prior service employee. That also will be placed in legislative. That concludes the ones that we have here. Does any council have any legislation that they're going to be introducing tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman Salvatore.
You mentioned that there's some of this legislation that's being introduced tonight isn't here. It hasn't been prepared yet.
No, we have the draft copy. We have the draft copies of them. They'll be prepared. They haven't received the correct form by the law department yet.
Can you identify which ones those are?
That's the one that deals with amending our codified ordinances and working with them. And the last four that were introduced by me that deal with chapter 153.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so that concludes the items under letter J. We'll move to letter K, miscellaneous business appointments, confirmations. We have none tonight. So we'll go to letter L, which is remarks from the audience on the ordinances and/or resolutions that pertain to items on the agenda. This would be the time if you want to speak to us about items that are on the agenda. You'd come to the podium, give your name and address, and talk to us about the items. Under first reading, we have ordinance number 10,086-2017, which deals with the firefighters' contract. Under second reading, we have ordinance number 10,081, which deals with the City of Brook Park's participation in state purchasing, dealing with in the ODOT purchasing program for the purchase of a plow assembly. We also have ordinance number 10,082 under second reading that deals with the purchase of a dump body and plow package for the truck. And under third reading, we have two items, ordinance number 10,078, which authorizes and improves the mayor to enter into a contract with Musco Lighting. And then we have ordinance number 10,079-2017, which authorizes and approves the mayor contract with Endless Pools. Those are the items that are on tonight's agenda. If anyone from the audience wants to speak to council about those items, the time would be now to come to the podium and give your name and address and talk to us about any of these items on the agenda.
Levine Cates, 15499 Remora. I wasn't planning on coming to the podium tonight, so bear with me here. I have a problem, and it's not a problem with the actual legislation, but it's with the firefighter contract. What I do have a problem with, and I do have to ask our I don't know who I should ask, if I should ask our safety director or our law
Case,
director.
I would suggest you just ask your question, and then when we come to that item,
Well-
council will probably address your answer.
Well,
then.
here, it actually has to do with you, sir. I believe there's a conflict of interest because you are on the AFL-CIO board, and the AFL-CIO is noticed on the, actually, on the contract on the front form. Also, I want to take notice of all the legislation you just brought forward. It pertains to a lot of things that have to do with the AFL-CIO, which I would think would be a violation of your position, being that it would be a conflict. So I don't know that he should even be here. Also, I think there would have been a violation if, because the last meeting, Councilman Troyer spoke about it, and he, Mr. Estorino and him said they spoke prior to the meeting about the actual firefighter legislation, which would mean that they spoke about this and him being on the board, and you did affirm that you were on the board to me personally. So I don't know what that, if there's going to be a problem with this in the long run, but I do think he needs to recuse himself from any and all things that have to do with any contracts of any kind, vacation, pay, sick leave, whatever it is that that you guys are going to bring forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else want to come to the podium to speak about items that are on the agenda? Okay, seeing no one else coming forward, that concludes the items under letter L. We'll move to letter M, which is introduction of ordinances and resolutions on first reading. We'll go to the first item, which is ordinance number 10,086-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Brook Park Firefighters Association, Local 1141, International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO-CLC, and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend?
Support.
There's a motion to suspend. It's been supported. Is there any discussion on suspension? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on suspension.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Powers? Troyer?
Yes.
Suspension's been approved.
Move to adopt. Support.
There's been a motion to adopt. It's been properly supported. Is there any discussion? Okay, before we go forward on the roll call on adoption, I just want to state that, based on the residents' comments, that I don't believe there's any conflict of interest that exists because of my relationship with the AFL-CIO board on this negotiation. So I'm not going, obviously you can see I did not recuse myself. So I didn't want to not address her comment, but there is no conflict of interest. So we'll go forward on the motion to adopt. Clerk, please call the roll.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Ordinance number 10,086-2017 has been adopted under suspension of the rules. Earlier, we took care of number 2 on the agenda with the resolution on Polaris, so that concludes the items under letter M. We'll move to items under letter N, the second reading of ordinances and resolutions. We'll go to ordinance number 10,081-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing the City of Brook Park's participation in the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program for the purchase of one plow assembly for a 2018 Western Star 4700 SB truck and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend?
Support.
There's been a motion to suspend, properly supported. Is there any discussion on suspension? Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Suspension's been approved.
Motion to adopt.
Support.
There's been a motion to adopt. It's been properly supported. Is there any discussion on adoption? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Mancini?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Ordinance number 10,081-2017 has been adopted under suspension of the rules. We'll move to item number 2, which is ordinance number 10,082-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with Henderson Products for the purchase of one 2018 dump body and plow package for Western Star truck and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend.
Support.
There's been a motion to suspend. It's been properly supported. Is there a discussion on suspension? Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Suspension's been approved.
Move to adopt.
Support.
The motion to adopt, it's been properly supported. Is there discussion on adoption? Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Troyer,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Ordinance number 10,082-2017 has been approved under suspension of the rules. That concludes the items under letter N. We'll move to letter O, which is the third reading of ordinance and resolutions. We'll go to item number 1, which is ordinance number 10,078-2017.
introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing and approving the mayor to enter into a contract with Musco Lighting LLC for the purchase of certain items and installation of an outdoor lighting system without public bidding to be installed at the Huffsey and Forbes Fields and declaring an emergency.
Move to adopt.
Support.
There's been a motion to adopt. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion under adoption? Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I'm going to be voting no on this tonight. I guess the biggest reason it's a non-bid contract. It's kind of odd that the company, the contractor, can go out to subcontractors and get bids for this, but we can't go out and get bids from contractors to do it. So, and there weren't 3 bids. So, again, non-bid contract, not going to go for it. I don't think this is that important. I think, I know I don't get into weeds, but basically, anybody wants to talk to me about this, they can talk to me and I'll tell them my other reasons, but I'm not voting for a no-bid contract when I think it could go out to bid and we could possibly get a better price. So I'm a no on this. Thank you.
Councilwoman Powers?
I will be voting no also, and for the same reason. I think that anything of substantial income over $50,000, we're supposed to send it out for public bidding. And we do not get any public bidding. We have not had any input from anyone else as to how we could get it done, where we could get it done, for what cost. So without public bidding, I have to vote no. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman.
Council, anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Let me check council first. Okay, no one else from council, so go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. First of all, to say there wasn't bidding is not true. We're selecting the general contract, Musco Lighting, which has expertise in this particular matter. So I don't know what's hiding in the weeds. We always look for some ghost behind a rock. There isn't any. Musco Lighting did a similar project in the city of Strongsville, where the lights were donated to them from a private a baseball field operation to put on their fields. The system we have right now is a Musco system, and it'll be moved and put on our 2 baseball fields. We're consolidating operations. They sought 3 bidders. 1 did not respond. Miller was the lowest and or best that just did the project in the city of Strongsville. It's unique and where you have to remove these poles from the concrete pillars and reinstall them. I had last year looking at doing all of the lighting and making the improvements to the fields out there, including the football field, was almost $1 million. So it would come to the 3 fields of about $300,000 a field. So to move these lights for $140,000 and change is not only a sound investment, and I can assure you, I don't know of anyone that could undertake the moving of these poles in this operation if they've done it before. So it makes sense for a sole source contractor who did bid this out, who has an experience of success. So I would ask council, these continual allegations that there's something untoward here are nothing more but insinuations. It's been properly vetted, and I believe that it's in the best interest of our city to go forward with these improvements at our parks. We're hoping the lights weren't utilized as they should have been at that location. I hope they will be now. I think you can see our people coming up and having experience of playing up here at Kennedy as we continue to consolidate our operations to reduce costs. I think this is a sound investment, and there's nothing illegal or improper or in the weeds. And I think if a member of council has an issue with something, I think they're obligated not to talk to me later, but to air that issue and whatever the issue may be before the city council, because I would like to hear it. So in any way, I think that the legislation is in proper form. I believe that it's legal, and I think it's proper under a sole source who bid out the actual moving of the lightings. As you can see by the diagrams, it's a unique trade and contracting ability of this company, and I would ask council to pass it this evening.
Okay, council. Seeing no other discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on adoption.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Troyer?
No.
Powers?
No.
McDonald?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
Ordinance number 10,078-2017 has been adopted.
Thank you, council.
We will move to item number 2, which is ordinance number 10,079-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing and approving the mayor to enter into a contract with Endless Pools and Radiant Heat Systems for the purchase and installation of 2 dual propulsion endless pools and systems without public bidding and declaring an emergency.
Move to table.
Second.
There's been a motion to table.
In committee.
It's been supported. Is there discussion on the motion to table?
Mr.
There
Chairman.
is no motion. No, I'm sorry. There is.
Have it, but if you
Thank
allow
you,
it, I'll
Dave.
do it.
Thank you, sorry. So there is no discussion on a motion to table. We're just going to call the roll on motion to table.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
No.
Mancini? Scott?
No.
Bergio?
No.
Salvatore?
No. Motion to place back in Recreation Committee?
Support.
Motion to place back in the Recreation Committee, properly supported.
Any discussion on this?
Discussion on this. Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. The mayor said earlier that he wanted this tabled. I thought I'd go along, but, because I was happy that he and other people have seen that, we don't have the whole cost of this. We don't know what it's gonna cost. That's been my biggest problem with it. So I was happy to table it. I guess I'm happy to put it back in committee either way, but I only made that motion because the mayor asked that it be tabled.
Don't ever do that again.
Exactly. When am I gonna learn? Thank you.
I don't know.
You're spending too much time in the weeds.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the motion to place it back in the Recreation Committee? Councilman Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it gives you more time to maybe look into a lot of things. Like I said, which way we gonna do it? We're gonna fill the pool, we're gonna put light pools in there, how are we gonna heat it? Give you a lot more time. I mean, that's what everyone's kind of asking for, so we could do that. You go get your answers, everybody get their answers on every which way you wanna do it. Will give us a little more time here to get some things done on this, so, let's move ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is also another without public bidding process, and yes, we have,
Councilwoman, the motion is to place it back in committee, so the discussion has to be on placing it back in committee, not on the merits of the proposal.
all right, okay. Then
So we'll just move, okay. Any other discussion on the motion to place back in committee? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on placing back in the Recreation Committee.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
The ordinance number 10,079-2017 has been placed back in the Recreation Committee. That concludes the items under letter O. We'll move to letter P, which is remarks from the audience on any subject matter. This is a time in the agenda where persons other than members of council and city officers shall be permitted to address council after introduction by the presiding officer. Each resident or citizen must identify himself and his residential address for the purpose of the public record, and the citizen shall at all times during the meeting conduct themselves in a professional manner. They shall not use offensive or threatening language to elected or appointed officials or to the attending public, and comply with the rules of council. They address your comments to the chair, and we would recommend you try not to use names, but use the titles. We ask the speakers to refrain from impugning the motives of the elected officials, and please confine your remarks to legislative matters and city business. We ask the speaker to please refrain from personal attacks. And if there's a point of order that's raised, I would ask the speaker to please stop speaking in order to listen to the chair. So anyone that wants to come forward now, please come to the podium, give your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Jack Thomas, 15913 Ramore Boulevard. Through the chair to our safety director, I just wanted to, I don't know if anybody's called about it, but with all the work that's being done in the Snow Road, Smith Road area, I don't know if you're aware or not, I live on Ramora, as does Levain. We have a lot of people cutting through Brookgate Shopping Center and speeding up Ramora. It was really bad last night. We had a motorcycle and then a car come all the way down the street, never slowed at the stop sign, straight from Smith Road all the way to Fry, doing 50, 60 miles an hour, never stopped, never even slowed down for the stop sign there. We've had a huge increase of traffic, so I'm just asking maybe if you could have your people give it a little bit more attention, since it's apparent to us that live there that people are using it as a cut-through to get to the end of Fry and get back on 71 and avoid the traffic. They're just forgetting that it's a 25-mile-an-hour zone instead of the 35. So I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I know. Elizabeth Sayers, 23065 Cedar Point Road, versus Brook Park. First thing I want to say is I had a good time at the Memorial Parade. It was kind of fun. Kind of felt kind of odd being the only one behind a truck for the beautification, but it was fun. Shook everybody's hands. They were sitting alongside the road and everything. Everything turned out really well. It was kind of fun. And I'm just glad everybody got along and there was no confrontations or anything. I was kind of shocked. But for for what Ms. Torrey was talking about, people's properties flooding in the backyard, I wouldn't touch that in my neighborhood because everybody's yard floods over there. There's nothing much you can do except people filling their yards and stuff because people get their yards flooded because, you know, there's trees, we have a woods near us, well, a whole corner of our backyard floods. But, you know, for Ward 1 councilman, you need to come around and start checking things out instead of driving around with your van. You need to get out and check out what's going on in that area over there. Okay, I've been on my bicycle talking to people on this side of Brook Park about all kinds of issues and things because I was trying to get my signatures for running for mayor. And I've heard every story imaginable about every city council person and the mayor. I know everybody's life history here. And I've heard every remark imaginable. And I just can't believe how split this city is. Okay? I don't badmouth any of you people that are running, okay? But let's get it together here. You know, there's a lot of issues that need to be resolved. There's a lot of things that need to be done with the city, and everybody's got their comments and everything. But the biggest problem I see here is that we're split in half here. you're either a goonie with our mayor, or I can't mention the words up here, or you're with the other people. Okay? And it's kind of hard to go around and talk to people when they want you to pick sides. And it's pretty bad that you gotta pick sides, okay? And when you wanna talk to your council people, it's impossible. Just like Ward 1, you know, I didn't wanna talk on emails, try to explain that. But if we can't call you on the phone and leave a message and have you return our calls, you got some issues yourself. And I don't think that's right at all. If I want to talk to one of you people up there and leave a message, call me back. If you can't do that, then you don't need to be working for the city of Brook Park. Now, as far as my council person, I called you twice, left a message. You never called me back. And then when I try to call you again, this is what I get for voicemails from a city council person. Very respectful, isn't it? You want me to show respect for all you up there? Then you need to show it towards me. And you can just sit there and you can smile at me and say whatever you want. Because you know what? After talking to all the people on this side of Brook Park and listening to every story about every one of you, I could write a book and probably make $1,000 off of it the first sale of the book. You guys need to talk to the residents. The residents need not to be bullied. They don't need to be put down. They don't need to be told off and have attitudes and everything. Now, I'm the biggest joke there is here in Brook Park. And I don't care what people say about me because it just shows how ignorant people are here. And what's really funny is most of the people I have talked to tell me the ignorance of city workers, council people, and everybody. I don't care about your past. I don't care what you did yesterday. You want to bring up about me, then why don't you all ask me? And that's what I told the residents. If you feel like you're being bullied by these people or by their family members, you need to speak up. You need to speak up and go, hey, you got a problem with me? Let's go talk about it. If we got a problem between two of us and we can't work it out, let's get our two attorneys to work it out together. Because I was already told on Facebook by the council president's wife, and I told her very nicely, let's get the two attorneys together. Never heard another word. You can't say it to my face or anybody else or any other residents that don't say it at all. But I can't believe I'm out there on my bike, now you ran into a tree, getting signatures. And the stuff that I hear about all you guys, who cares? I wanted to hear what you guys are doing for the city. Yeah, go ahead and laugh. I don't care because it's funny. You know, seeing a fat lady on the side of the road. But anyway, you know, I don't understand why people got to bully everybody, threaten people, and people that have been on the council and not on the council. So what's the problem with this city? It's because we're split here, and nobody can work together without bad-mouthing somebody else. You know, I don't care what Troyer did 10 years ago or 5 years ago. I don't care what Salvador ran back in the day and what he did and stuff. I want to talk about right now. What are we going to do to fix the city? We go over the same old crap. Every council meeting, it's the same old thing. Did anything get resolved yet? Gee, the residents don't think so. And we're talking about the same old garbage. But I like to know why all these residents are afraid of talking and telling me they're getting bullied. Or they don't want to talk because they don't get any answers. Good question, huh? Why doesn't the residents get the answers they want to hear? You know, pacify them. If you can't answer them, Say something to them. I don't know the answer. I don't know how to fix it. We don't have the money. Something. But to go around and listen to these people saying, well, you're one of Coin's goonies, you know, we don't want to even see you in our yard. I go, I'm nobody. I hate everybody equally. You know? I hate everybody equally. That way, there's nobody can come back at me saying, oh, you favor this person, you favor that person, you're kissing that one's butt and not kissing this one. You know? I mean, I don't word it like how you want to hear it. But I'm telling it like it is. Why are we so split in this city? And it's sad because if I don't say the right thing to the right person, then, oh, I'm going to put you on Facebook, I'm going to call my attorney. Go for it. What can you take from me? Well, if you take my orange truck, I'll be hurt. But there's nothing you can take from me. There's nothing you could say about me that I haven't heard or I haven't said. But, you know, don't you think we need to work and talk to the residents and have the residents, you know, get involved without feeling that they're afraid to come in here and talk? Just like me. If I don't word every little thing I say right up here, I'm going to have a police report done on me. And I've been accused of that and already had one happen to me. You can go ahead and put a police report on me. You can lock me up. You can do anything you want to me. Because that's not going to change my big mouth. And I'm going to say it. But there is something wrong here. Look at the audience here. You know? It's really funny, isn't it? You think it's a joke. Well, I don't think it's a joke. And I don't think the city should be split like it is because we don't go along with the POC or we don't go along with this other person. And nobody has the gall to come up here and say it like it is. Well, you can't, you gotta say POC, you gotta abbreviate everything, or you end up in court. And that's another thing that's really bad about this city. You can't say it because people get offended. Well, don't get offended, say it like it is and stand up for yourself. Now, I'm running for mayor. If you don't like it, it's not my problem. It's not my problem. I can try, I can get my signatures, I can go out there and look like an idiot and hit trees and fall on the side of the road and almost slam into a car, but I'm having fun and talking to people. I don't see anybody coming and talking in my neighborhood. I got a councilman over here that rides around in a van. Get out and walk around. Ask what's going on around there. See all the violations that are going on around there. Look how nice Mayor Coin's yard's going, you know? There's the communication here, it just sucks. It really does. And if you want the people to respect you, you guys need to respect us. And that's all I gotta say, because you know what? If this counts, that I don't have any votes, I don't care. Because you know what? There's only one vote I want, and that's an honest one. And I might not be mayor of the city, but I can sure try, and I'm never gonna give up. And that's one thing people do around here. They give up too easy because they don't know how to stand up to anybody. And I hope everybody that's listening to me starts standing up for themselves and quit being afraid. Because I'll tell you right now, I might not get all my signatures. I might not make it. Well, I did get most of them. But all I want is one vote. And I'm not voting for myself because I'm not self-absorbed. So I just want one vote. It's all I need to make me happy. And I just have one question, though, if I'm allowed to ask this one. The fundraiser that's going on with the go-karts, Mayor Coin, I want you and I to race. What do you think?
I'll race your Corvette with my Jaguar. It'll be safer for me. How's that sound?
We already did that.
No, we didn't. You got a head start.
Well, my foot's faster than yours on that clutch.
I'll see you there, hopefully. Be my guest.
So you don't want to try the go-karts, huh?
No, I said be there, be my guest.
I will be there, but you got to race me. But we can do the Corvette and Jaguar thing. All right, well, you guys have a nice night. And like I said, let's get some communication going here. Let's do something. okay, instead of splitting us all apart. Have a nice night. I did good, oh.
Does anyone else want to come to the podium to speak?
Hey, I didn't use any foul language.
Anyone else want to come to the podium and speak?
Motion to address the audience.
All right, that concludes the audience participation. We'll come back up to the dais. There's a motion by Councilman Mancini to address the audience. Motion fails for lack of a second. So,
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
so motion to adjourn has been properly supported. Clerk, please call the roll on adjournment.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Troyer.
Yes.
This meeting is now adjourned at 9:30. Thank you very much.